Hello, everyone. I'm Kenneth Bader, and this is Grace.
Hello.
We are fossil preparators at the Jackson School of Geosciences Vertebrate Paleontology Lab. And today we're opening up one of our jackets that was collected back in 1939 by the Works Progress Administration, or the WPA. During the end of the Great Depression, the WPA hired a large number of people to help with a lot of building improvement projects. But they also had them, I'm doing this live. They also had them help out with excavating fossils in a couple of different localities in Texas. Now this is our jacket. We have a number here, HO347A39. HO is Howard County, so that's up near Big Spring. It's quarry number 3 and jacket 47A, and it was collected in 1939. We're not really sure what this fossil is. It's really difficult to tell what a specimen is when it's still encompassed within the matrix in the field, but the general shape of it makes me think that it's probably something like a phytosaur.
Yes. Okay. Hang on a moment.
So here's a Phytosaur skull. It's roughly the same shape as the jacket. Phytosaurs are crocodile-like animals that are distantly related to crocodiles. And the main difference is in a crocodile you would have the nostrils up here, but they're actually retracted to just in front of the eyes on a Phytosaur. And these are probably some of the most common animals we get during the Triassic in Western North America. So we're going to go ahead and open this up. No promises that it is a Phytosaur skull. I've had some times where I've opened up a jacket and found it's not actually part of the Howard County Otis Chalk fossil deposits. But we won't know until we open it up. So I'm going to use a tool to open it up that makes a little bit of noise. It's called a Dremel tool. And it's basically a vibrating saw, like a cast cutting saw, that I'm going to use to cut away at the plaster and open up the top of it as a lid. I actually already started opening the backside. This is going to make a little bit of noise, so expect it to be a little bit louder than my regular voice. Grace, can you turn on the dust collector?
I will.
Have to have electricity. Hopefully that was enough. And now we're going to trim the last little bit open with X-Acto knives to cut the burlap on the inside of the plaster. I made a few extra incisions up here just to kind of help make sure that the jacket doesn't lock around any fossils. Go ahead and work the front.
Actually, I should be doing
So you want to
Yes. Be over here.
Working faster at it than I am. I'm gonna have to trim a little bit more right here.
Okay.
There we go. Okay.
It's coming away for you.
I need to cut and separate here.
Okay.
Well, guess we're not getting coal this year. There we go. Got a lot of loose matrix right up here. You go ahead and just take that lid off. Well, the good news is I'm not seeing any bone right now. Maybe a little bit right here. So we're just going to go ahead now and start cleaning up a lot of this loose rock. It appears that this is the rock that was underneath the fossil when it was excavated. What happened to our bucket? We had a bucket. We usually we save a lot of this matrix so that we can screen wash it and hopefully find either fragments that we missed while we were preparing the specimen, or sometimes we get microvertebrates, things like fish teeth and fish scales and lizard jaws and frogs, stuff like that. Just carefully look at each piece and make sure there's no bone as we go. Most of this is just a siltstone or a mudstone with little green clay clasts in it. Forgot to grab brushes.
We actually got a question. Do you guys mind answering it while you're...
Yes.
Yeah?
What's your question?
Yep. Can you guys tell us a bit about the geology of the locality? And that's a question from Rene Dietrichs.
Okay. I don't know a lot about the geology from the locality because no one's been out to the locality since it was collected in the 1930s. But the locality is Upper Triassic in age, out near Big Spring. and it's mostly composed of mudstone and siltstones. Overall, the locality has produced mostly vertebrate fossils, so there are things like phytosaurs and aetosaurs. There are a handful of dinosaurs from the locality, and every time we open up a new one of these blocks, since we don't know what's inside, there's always a possibility that we might get some new animals. So it's Triassic in age. I think that would put the age somewhere between 310 and 330 million years old.
So it looks like you've exposed the bone a little bit right here.
Yeah, there is a bone right there. And there's another bone right here. So there's something right here, real thin, and another piece here. And it's interesting because it's not something I'd expect to see in a Phytosaur skull. And it seems like it's almost like a rib-like object. And the two halves combine, and they have a 90-degree turn, which is interesting. There's also a little bit of bone right here, exposed.
Is that more of it right
I
there?
think this is also bone. All this stuff that's kind of whitish is bone. And there's a little bit of bone right here. And I know it's hard to tell on the video feed. Generally, what I'm seeing right now, the matrix is a lighter color than the bone. The bone has an ironstone concretion over it, and it's a little bit more of a brick red color. And one of the things that I figured out early on was if you tap it with something metal, you can kind of tell the difference. So here's bone, and there's a little bit different there with the matrix.
Yeah, this sounds a bit more hollow.
Yeah, more hollow or dull.
Consolidant?
Yeah, something just in case. I know some of it's a little bit mobile. So we add a glue called B72. It's a paraloid B72. It's basically, I always think of it as like a plastic that dissolves in acetone. And we drip this into the cracks, and as the acetone evaporates away, it leaves that plastic as a hardener. And the nice thing is that's reversible. We can add acetone again later on and reverse that glue. I was kind of hoping that we would be looking at the top of a Phytosaur skull and it would be easily identifiable, but that doesn't always happen.
Excuse me.
We have a question, whether this could be a limb bone or not. Is that possible? Do you see?
Anything could be inside this. There could be limb bones, like that's probably some kind of rib. And I have oh hey, check this out right here. So this is like a socket here, like a joint. So this object right here, the two things I can think of that this could be, is this could either be the socket where the mandible fits into the jaw, so if the skull is upside down, or we could be looking at a scapula, like one of the shoulder blades.
Just to make sure it stays.
Yes, yes. That's loose right there. Actually, I'm going to brush away right here before we glue that and see what the shape of this bone is. Well, it's not enough to say whether it's part of a jaw or part of the part of a scapula. And it appears I brushed away a piece of bone, but we'll find that when we screen wash it. probably sitting right there. Maybe if I'm going to try cleaning here in the hope that maybe I'll expose the underside of the jaw. But yes, we could easily have a limb bone mixed in with this block. I've had a couple of specimens over the years a couple of these Otis chalk blocks that I opened up, and immediately right on the top there was a articulated arm and a articulated foot sitting right on the surface. You never really know until you open up the jacket. Kind of why this is Christmas for paleontologists.
Yeah, with you never want to force anything. So,
Could you tell us a little bit more about what Texas was like whenever this fossil, whatever it may be, was alive?
So, at least in the part of Texas where this is from, this animal would probably have been living in a broad, swampy plain, kind of similar to what you would expect in East Texas today. Low-lying areas with big meandering rivers moving towards the ocean. But in this case, the ocean probably would have been directed more to the west, toward where we think of New Mexico and Arizona to be today. And this is Triassic, so at this period, Pangea, all the continents have combined into one landmass, and it's just starting to break apart. And one of those openings probably would be toward where we have the Gulf today. That would be the separation of either South America or Africa away from the southern United States.
We have another question. Is the age of the locality Norian?
I would have to check to see if it is Norian age or Carnian. I would have to look that up to check.
got a little bit more bone over here.
More bone?
Just a little bit, right here.
Okay. So now we have our joint here and the bone that runs in this direction. Then there's something else coming this way. So that is most likely the back of, or the underside of a Phytosaur skull. And probably what we have here is what's called a gastralia, which is one of the ribs from the belly of the animal.
here's something quiet and meditative about doing fossil prep.
Do all fossils come apart this easily, or do you have to employ different methods sometimes?
Sometimes we get specimens that are basically in a big concretion, a big hunk of limestone, and and the matrix around it doesn't crumble away and separate from the bone nicely. So we just have to sit down with a lot of our heavier duty equipment like air scribes and slowly chip away the layers of bone. Or in some cases we might use acid to prepare away the rock.
Able to tease, no?
Started to think I had something up here, and if there is something, it's a lot deeper in the jacket. Wait, what do we got here? There we go. Yeah. Okay, so I've exposed more bone up here, and there's one bone running here, and one running along here. It's not the most visible thing, but this is part of the jaw of the animal. So this is a Phytosaur jaw, and what I've now realized that we're looking at is there are two bones that are running and splitting apart here. And there is a little groove that has some spots that would normally hold teeth. I don't see any teeth. And this bone probably runs out over here. So this is actually, instead of a skull, we're actually looking at the lower jaw of the animal. It's a large Phytosaur. Let's see if I can clean up and follow that one bone all the way over.
Here's the big stuff.
How do you think the jaw is positioned? Are you looking at the bottom or the top?
We're currently looking at the top of the jaw, so it's basically just sitting there like this. And it's a Phytosaur, so it's a crocodile-like jaw. The two halves are coming together and merging. I don't see any teeth, but it's not uncommon at all for the teeth to be missing from these specimens. So this bone keeps running and runs all the way up here, and that's the hinge joint that attaches to the bottom of the skull. Now it looks like the other half comes out and ends here, but it's hard to say. We don't know what's over in this corner, and we won't know until we do a lot more fossil preparation. It may take a couple of weeks or a couple of months, and I guess over time we will continue going ahead and making updates and photos for the Jackson Skull and on the Vertebrate Paleontology page on Facebook. If you have any questions, you can go ahead and continue to add them into our feed. And you can follow us on the Jackson Skull's Facebook page or Instagram, and watch for updates on our pages.
We have one last closing question.
Okay.
If that's okay. It's how many taxa of phytosaurs are known from the region where this fossil was collected?
That would be an excellent question for our former graduate student, Michelle Stalker. And I think that there are at least 2 or 3 different phytosaurs from this locality. The taxonomy has changed, so she would be a better person to ask for that. But there are at least 2 or 3. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.